Another day, another real world test. Today we're doing it on the Galaxy Z Fold 2. And I figured we would just maybe try to do this from a different neighborhood just to spice things up a little bit. We are still in Brooklyn where I actually live, but now we're in an area called Dumbo. This neighborhood was once, like most of the hoods lining the river here in Brooklyn, a manufacturing and trade hub. But nowadays, it's become a gentrified hood with lots of artists moving into renovated lofts and has the highest concentration of tech startups in any neighborhood in New York City. Coffee. Check. Now this area is called Dumbo, which might seem weird. That is the Manhattan Bridge, and this is an area that's kind of right underneath it. And so Dumbo stands for Down Under the Manhattan Bridge Overpass. Now, that might seem a little redundant because an overpass is obviously a bridge, but if you took out the O, then it would have just been called, dumb. I'm going to assume that you came from plenty of other videos about this device, so I'm going to skip and spare you the boring specs. But first off, one thing that we were all hoping for on the first model, they finally did on this model, which is give it a pretty much full screen on the outside. Now, with the old model, I actually ended up using the outside cover display for very specific things. I even only put certain apps on that display that I knew I could use on such a tiny screen. But with this one, I feel like I actually kind of mimicked my normal home screen layout that's on the inside, now on the outside, because I can pretty much use it as a normal phone while closed, which is amazing. Now the display itself is very skinny. I think it's like a 25:9 aspect ratio or so. So certain little things, like when I'm trying to type on it, I don't always hit the right keys because they're just so close together and small, but I actually get around this by just using the swipe function of the keyboard, which is what I kind of prefer to do when I'm using the phone with one hand anyway. Speaking of that, because of that skinniness of that display, so long as again I use the swipe for my keyboard, it actually is a pretty decent one-handed device, so long as you don't have to reach anything too high up on the screen. While using it one-handed and closed like this, you will also notice that it is a very thick phone. I mean, it is, as near as makes no difference, about the same thickness of two Note 20 Ultras stacked on top of each other. But personally, I don't mind that. It fits just fine in my pocket, and it's something you just kind of have to live with when it comes to the world of folding phones in this format. Okay, let's check in on the battery like we do. I took this phone off its charger about 9. I was working a lot, so I didn't really use it too much, but now it is 2 p.m., and we are at, you probably can't see this, but 68%.
Apparently, I made a friend.
Dumbo is home actually also to a very popular photo spot that I'm sure you've seen many photos from. This, with, of course, the Manhattan Bridge in the background. And unless you crop the photo like I did here, you don't really have a choice but to get other people in the photo because it's just that popular. People are just waiting around for their turn to try to take their own photos. I mean, it is a pretty photo. I get it. And as cool of a photo as that is, what all people don't realize when they're standing here is that something very important was invented here at this building called the Robert Gare Building. And a man by that same name actually in 1890 invented the pre-cut cardboard box here. And where would we be without that cardboard box? No? And this is Timeout Market, one of the markets that came out of all of the warehouses that I mentioned down here. It's massive, and it's this huge indoor market with all these different vendors, etc. But of course, because it's COVID, now those vendors are open, but you're not allowed to sit there. You can grab your food from them and then use it for takeout, or they have a very small rooftop area that you can then bring that food to. Because here in New York City, we are only allowed to do outdoor dining. We're not allowed to do any type of most things inside, which I'm not complaining about. Seems to be working considering we're one of the few cities in the United States whose numbers are actually still going down for COVID. So, cool. Also, not a bad place to have a little happy hour bite. But let's real quick talk about the cameras. Now, while the camera module on this phone looks very similar to the Note 20 Ultras, it actually has 3 different cameras. The main camera is actually a 12 megapixel instead of 108 megapixel, and it has smaller pixel sizes even when they're binned together, and it's a smaller sensor. The telephoto is actually a 2x optical zoom instead of the 5x optical zoom that I actually really like on the Note 20 Ultra, so that's also kind of less than. And finally, we have the ultra wide, which is very similar to the Note 20 Ultra, but has, again, smaller pixel sizes and just is a smaller sensor with a slightly larger field of view by 3 degrees. And personally, I wish they literally just took the Note 20 Ultra's stuff and threw it into the Fold. For whatever reason, they didn't do that. So you kind of feel like you're just getting slightly less specs as far as the camera is concerned than if you went for the much less expensive, obviously it doesn't fold in half, Note 20 Ultra. And as you can tell from the photos in this video, the camera's not bad by any means. It just slightly irks me to know what Samsung is capable of with a camera because of the Note 20 Ultra, and then how they kind of just handicap this one just a little bit. One of the unique things about this camera system, though, is that you can start taking a selfie with the phone closed and then tap this selfie button at the top right, then open the device, and this will use the rear cameras, which are arguably much better quality, and you have different options compared to the tiny one above the outside screen. Okay, and with that, let's get out of here. It is 6:07 p.m. and we are at 39%. And now we've made it kind of to the end of Dumbo, at least according to Google Maps' neighborhood map. But it's kind of funny because we're no longer under the Manhattan Bridge. We're now actually under the Brooklyn Bridge, but there you go. Now, real quick though, I want to talk about some of the productivity things about this device, because obviously part of the reason you want this large screen is to be more productive with your phone, right? So firstly, we have a level of app continuity just like we did with the original Fold. You can take any app you have open on the cover screen, and if you open the phone, it'll continue where it left off on the larger screen inside. And so long as you go to Settings, Display, Continue Apps on Cover Screen, you can select specific apps you want to continue when you go from the large screen to the smaller one as well, with a few exceptions that just don't work, like Instagram, for example. Which, by the way, they've cropped the sides off of. My guess is so that Instagram stories are at least closer to what they should look like instead of getting as severely cut off as the original Fold did when you used the larger screen. If you want to use multiple apps on the large screen, you can swipe up to get to multitasking, tap and hold on any icon for any app that supports it, and select Open in Split Screen View. Then you can choose another app on the other side to have them both open next to each other. You can also move the divider between them to adjust the real estate that each one gets, and you can tap that divider to swap them or to change them from vertical to a horizontal split. You can also pull in on the floating bar on the side of the screen and drag and drop another app into the designated areas on the screen to get 3 apps open at once. And finally, you can add one last 4th one in the same way as a floating window in the center that you can then move around freely. Tapping the icon on any of these windows gives you options to have them replace other apps that are open, or other options as well, and pulling the divider all the way to one side will then full screen the app as usual. Something else that's kind of clever is that you can tap on that divider when you have multiple apps open, and then you can save the pair of apps to the slide out drawer on the right, and whenever you tap on it from there, they'll both open up at once. You can even drag out a third app, and then save all three in the same way as well. Okay, we're at a place called Harriet's on top of the One Hotel. I think I just crossed the border of Dumbo into Brooklyn Heights. I was trying to keep the entire video in Dumbo, but whatever. It's a really nice place to have dinner and a drink, but also, much more importantly, it's a good place to test out the low light camera on this phone. Okay, calling it a night. It is 11:04 p.m. and we are at 4%. Here's my screen on time and my usage for those that are curious. But there you go. What do you guys think? Let me know what you thought of this video. I tried to be more vloggy as usual now. You guys seem to enjoy that, so I keep doing it, and also it's more fun for me. But I did try to include that neighborhood and just see what you guys thought about that, and kind of wandering around that neighborhood was fun for me as well. So let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of that, of this video in general, of the phone. I would love to know what you guys think of this folding device, because I think it is very interesting. I personally, I really like it. I'm not gonna lie. The price is a factor, obviously, but for what it is, I think they're on the right track. But let me know what you guys think. Otherwise, if you like this video, please thumbs up it or share it. It's greatly appreciated. Also, check out the rest of the channel if you like what you see there. Please subscribe and ding the bell next to where subscribe so you get notified when I do new videos. As always, though, regardless, thanks for watching.